Let's be brutally honest. The fastest way to lose your job as a data leader is to neglect governance, security, or compliance. I've seen companies lose millions and people lose careers because of one missed alert or silent data loss. This week's gauntlet isn't just theory. These are the questions that you're going to be grilled on in every enterprise interview, and the ones that decide whether your data team survives its next data crisis. Here are your 4 real-world scenarios. If you can't answer these cold, you're not ready for the big seat. Alright, question 1. You're architecting a cloud analytics stack. How do you enforce least privilege access, role-based controls, and full audit trails across sensitive datasets? Okay, question 2. Your company falls under GDPR or HIPAA. What's your end-to-end process for building compliant pipelines, proving it to auditors, and ensuring that the business stays out of legal crosshairs? A critical pipeline has been breached. Walk through your real-world playbook, technical, legal, and stakeholder communications step by step. Last question. Execs demand proof of data origin and quality in your key dashboard. How do you use modern lineage tools and automated docs to pass a surprise audit? Nail these, and you won't just survive your next compliance review, you'll lead it. Alright, here are the questions and answers from last week's episode. Number 1 was about data freshness guarantees. So let me be blunt. Executives could care less about your pipeline status. They care about not being blindsided by stale or bad data. In my last corporate role, I saw a dashboard with this 48-hour lag blow up a sales forecast, costing us nearly $500,000 in lost deals. Here is how you would avoid it and discuss this in an interview. Make sure that you have active SLAs and some automated freshness checks. Use tools like Airflow, Dagster, DBT to enforce some hard deadlines. Build in custom tests for freshness, things like row count validation, timestamp checks, and some anomaly scoring. Be sure that you fail loudly, not silently. So many programmers work so hard to keep the pipelines flowing when things fail, but this means that things fail silently and you never see it coming. So if your data is late or fails validation, if your block dashboard refreshes, and fire off some alerts. Don't let stale data sneak through. And as a bonus, add a freshness status widget right on the dashboard. Something with a last updated on so that people can easily see when that report and that data was last refreshed. Alright, question number 2 was around silent break detection. Most data teams assume that no error means no problem. That is how silent failures will kill your credibility. Not just for you, but for your whole team. One time, a client's ETL ran for weeks reporting success. Meanwhile, the partner system had changed a field name, and they lost a quarter of their inbound transactions. So here's my go-to to make sure that this doesn't happen. Use row-level lineage and audit logs. Assign a unique run ID to every batch. Log record counts, hashes, and key stats at every individual point along the way. Use automated reconciliation. Schedule some cross-system audits, compare source and destination data, and flag any mismatches. Even with green statuses, things can slip through. Resilience drills. Routinely break your own pipelines to test and make sure that monitoring is actually catching those silent errors. Treat monitoring like fire drills. All right. Question 3 was around silent data loss catching. So catching some invisible data loss without, just constant alerts, right? Could lead to alert fatigue. This means that you need to combine some smart automation and context. I once had this nightly process flag a 10% drop in record count. It turned out to be that national holidays or Sundays a lot of times would cause the alerts to start firing off. This was not a bug. So the fix that we had to put in was to use dynamic baselines and anomaly detection. Build in some seasonality and trend awareness. Make your alerting smart, right? Use averages from historical days, right? Make sure that you are comparing Sunday to Sunday, not Sunday to Black Friday. Next, use field level and key checks. Validate that not just the count, but the business keys themselves, the IDs and the dates, are complete and accurate. Alert tuning. Tune thresholds and suppression logic. Make sure that you're only escalating on sustained or unexplained deviations. Log the rest for review at a later time. All right, we had a 4th question last week as well, and it was around monitoring system outages. So I'll be real, your alerting is gonna fail. It's not if, it's when. So if you don't have a fallback, you are gambling with your data, your business, and potentially your job. So here's some ways to skirt around that and address those issues. Layered monitoring. Use multiple alerting systems, native cloud systems, external services, even a simple email heartbeat job from a separate infra account will help to make sure that things flow and alert when they should. Manual runbooks and executive communications. When systems go dark, switch to some manual health checks, sample queries, key record validation. Have those things ready so that you could quickly use them and address any potential situations. Proactively notify your stakeholders that automated monitoring is down, manual checks are in progress, when we're going to provide updates every 15, 30 minutes, whatever the needs of the business are. Also, be sure that you're using some resilience testing. Regularly simulate a monitoring outage, practice some manual recovery so that the first time isn't the real crisis and that your team is ready to jump into action. Be sure that you're addressing legal risk. Documenting all manual checks and communications is important. If this leads to a breach, your audit trail may save your company from regulatory fines. All right, this last question was about monitoring system outages. Let's be real. Your alerting is eventually going to fail. It's not if, it's when. If you do not have a fallback, you are gambling not just with your data, but your company's success. Here is how you would address that in an interview situation or in real world. Use layered monitoring. Be sure that you're using multiple alerting systems, things like native cloud situations, external services, even a simple heartbeat email from a separate infra account will make sure that things continue to run smoothly. Be sure that you have some manual runbooks and executive communications to use so that when systems do go dark, be sure that you're switching to these manual health checks. Things like sample queries, key record validations that you could quickly run in the case that things do go quiet. Proactively be sure that you're notifying your stakeholders in these situations. Let them know automated monitoring is down, manual checks are in progress, and we'll provide updates every 30 minutes or so. Be sure that you're including some resiliency testing. Regularly simulate a monitoring outage and practice manual recovery so that the first time that a crisis occurs isn't the first time that you're actually dealing with it and going through these motions. Finally, be sure that you're addressing any potential legal risk. Documenting all of your manual checks and communications is important because if this leads to a breach, your audit trail may save your company from regulatory fines. Remember, data governance isn't just about compliance. It's about keeping your business alive and your career protected. Answer these challenges in the comments and be sure to download the worksheet with some sample answers and score yourself. The best responses are going to get featured in our next video and might just land you your next job. Be sure to subscribe, comment, and share this video if it helped you to be able to successfully pass your interview. Until next time, keep your pipelines clean and your queries lean.